Hi ladies, welcome back to the channel. I am Nina, and if you are new here, welcome. It is always so good to have all you beautiful and pretty ladies on here with me. And today's video is a bit of a reaction video. I'm reacting to another video that I watched where a young lady was talking about how pretty privilege is something that she can never have. She's just not built that way. She's just not designed that way. And she made a whole video going on about why she will never experience pretty privilege, or how she has never experienced it and she feels that she will never. So this video really touched on a lot of points. She raised just a lot of points on that video, and I felt at some level that I related to what she was saying, but I also really felt like there was just one little degree that she missed, that got her completely off the mark. That if she could just change her train of thought just by 1 degree, she'd actually be fine. So I'm gonna try and cover a little bit of what I picked up from that video in this video. I probably will be making a bit of a series because, like I said, there were a lot of points that came up, and I want to be able to address as many of them because, like I said, I relate to some of her thinking. Well, I won't say I relate. I can say I can empathize with some of her thinking, but there are also a lot of things that I feel like she needs to look at herself first before she makes certain conclusions. So let's get into it. I will start off by saying some of what she mentions in the video goes to deep related beliefs around preference when it comes to dating, and specifically I think in the African community, if I can put it that way, African ethnicity, where we're all brought up with the perception that the more light-skinned you are, the more acceptable you are in society, and the more dark-skinned you are, the less acceptable you are in society. And when it comes to beauty standards, it's kind of the same, the more light-skinned you are, the prettier you're considered to be, versus being dark-skinned. It's always a thing of, wow, she's pretty for a dark-skinned girl, but you never hear she's pretty for a light-skinned girl. So that part of the message, that's, I think, what I feel I can relate to, just because I also grew up hearing things like, oh, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl, but people who were light-skinned were just automatically considered pretty. It doesn't matter what shape their eyes and their cheekbones are, they're light-skinned. That's like the card that trumps everything. But as I've grown up, I've kind of realized that as much as this may be a belief system for a lot of people, it's not a belief system for everybody. And it's also kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy where light-skinned girls carry themselves a certain way because they see themselves as the prize, and dark-skinned girls carry themselves, and I'm really generalizing over here, I'm not saying everybody is like this, but you kind of see that, self-fulfilling prophecy or cycle where the way a person carries themselves is based on their belief of themselves, and then the more they do that, the more their belief is reinforced, right? So that is basically where I kind of want to enter the chat, where I'm like, okay, I understand that belief because I grew up with it as well, but Pretty privilege is more than just being a certain skin tone. I've seen absolutely gorgeous dark-skinned girls run the room, okay? And light-skinned girls that would have been considered just generically pretty just because of their light skin are not able to carry what some of these not light-skinned sisters can do. So those are some of the things that you really have to start looking at and dispelling some of those myths, because a lot of them are myths. As soon as you change your belief, the world changes. So what does that tell you? It's a myth. So if we're going to move from that premise of that was your belief, you kind of have some work to do with unbelieving. And that has been my journey with leveling up, and if we can call it pretty privilege. I do believe I have pretty privilege, and it's not something I've always had in my life, and I don't think I have it at the level that I would like to have it at, but I definitely do have it. And one thing I can say about pretty privilege is that it's effort, it's work, okay? It's not something you do once and then you think the whole world is going to fall at your feet. It does not work like that, okay? One of the examples this lady gave was she got dressed up on her birthday and went out for dinner and drinks with her friends, and she was really feeling herself. This is like the prettiest she's made herself ever, from what I took from that video. And when she walked into the place, she noticed a table of guys that she assumed were single and she assumed were looking you know, to socialize. She noticed them, but they didn't notice her. And a few minutes later, a friend of hers walked in, and the whole room, the energy just changed. Those guys noticed her. They couldn't keep their eyes off of her. And for her, it was a thing of, oh, my friend is light-skinned or mixed ethnicity. I'm not quite sure, and I'm not, so that's why. It's a couple of factors, okay? I don't know what your friend looks like, but I saw the video of this lady and I think she's a beautiful woman. I'm just very aware of the fact that she does not put effort into her look. You know, the colors that she had on were very dull. There was just no real effort, okay? She just looked very plain Jane, if I can put it that way. So my first point is pretty privilege is effort. It's something you do, and you do it every day or more often than you don't. It's not a once-off thing. It's almost like when you exercise and you're trying to get in shape and you think if you do, like, this would be ideal for me if I could do 3 weeks of exercise so that my body transforms into what I ideally want it to be, and then I never have to exercise ever again, right? And my body just stays banging. That's not really how it works, okay? The 3 weeks you put in the beginning, you're probably not going to see the results of that, except some sort of momentum. And after about 3 months, maybe you'll start seeing, okay, some changes. And even then, you have to couple it with other things, right? You exercise, you eat right, you drink water, you do all the things in order to get the one result. It's even like making a big purchase. You know, you don't just go and look at a car, for example, and qualify for it just because that's what you want. You have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account. You have to have had a certain amount of money in your bank account for a certain period of time. If you're employed, it's 3 months. If you're self-employed, it's 6 months. You have to put in effort if you want a specific result. You don't wake up one morning, do it once, and think everything is going to change. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. So, this lady just getting up, getting dressed, dolling herself up to a degree, I will say that, on her birthday, and then expecting the whole room to turn is kind of naive, right? It's kind of naive because you have not built up the persona, the energy, the attractiveness to turn heads by just putting on a pretty dress once. Okay, it's effort, and you really have to choose between reinventing yourself and holding on to your old story. A lot of what she said was a lot of justification of, oh, things like that never happened to me. What was I thinking? Of course it would happen to my friend. She's always, attracted a level of attention. She's married. Her husband fell in love with her at first sight. That would never happen to me, right? That's an old story. Now, I'm not disputing facts. Okay, we all have our facts that we are holding on to that make sense of our reality. But when you want to try something different in your life, you have to let go of some of those old stories. Even if it's temporarily, just let me just see. Do that, it's fine. Just put it on the shelf for a minute. Be like, let me just suspend this belief and let me see what will happen. You cannot hold on to your old story of things like this never happened to me and then have things like this happen to you. It doesn't work. You have to kind of put this guy down so that you can have a decent experience on this side. Once again, you're not going to put it down for one night, for 1 week, for 1 month, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Just for that year, suspend the belief of things like this never happened to me. Just suspend it. Just see what other facts are out there. Because, baby, it's a whole bunch of facts, okay? So when it comes to pretty privilege, you have to choose between reinventing yourself, putting in the effort that is required to reinvent yourself, or holding on to your old woe is me story and then just getting the same results over and over. Okay, and if you're willing to do that work, whether it's working out, whether it's makeup, whether it's hair, whether it's clothing, whether it's the way that you walk, the way that you talk, what you talk about, changing it all up. Okay, if you are willing to reinvent yourself to be the most feminine version of yourself, you will have access to pretty privilege, period. And if you're so bogged down by your own stories, you're going to miss it. You're absolutely going to miss it. So that is very, very important. I think a lot of people look at pretty women and think, oh, the world must be easy, life must be easy because you're pretty. It's easier, but guess what? The effort that you're not putting in to your look and how you carry yourself, you are going to pay for that by doing extra to get people's attention. Whereas if you had invested all of that extra energy into your presentation, your image, how you present to the world, then you probably wouldn't need that much effort with other things. One of the things she mentioned was like how she kind of has to be more of the louder one or the funny one or whatever in order to be able to compensate for the lack of masculine attraction that she experiences in social settings. So her personality makes up for what she lacks in looks, basically, is what I got from that. And that's effort. That's effort. I don't make men laugh. Some of the things I say are funny, but I don't go out and, I better make sure that I make him laugh because, no, I don't want that burden. We can sit and be bored in each other's presence, I don't care. I actually do not care. But what I do know is if he's attracted to me on a certain level, there's just certain things that, yes, I will be privileged. I will not have to pay for. He knows it. I know it. Everybody knows it, right? And it's because I put effort here. And whether I have jokes, whether I'm a loudmouth, that I'm able to get attention by being the loudest in the room, I don't do all of that. That's just way too much work for me. I'm not doing all of that. I'm not loud. I've never been a loud person. That is not something that I'm trying to learn how to be. And loud people don't get as much benefits as they think, right? People notice them and everything, but people grow tired very quickly. That's what I've seen. Whereas if you're to yourself and mysterious and a little bit aloof, you draw people in. People are suddenly trying to serve you, trying to figure you out, trying to, present themselves at your service, right? And when you're loud, people don't generally do that. So, you have to put in effort. You can create pretty privilege. It's not something that you're either born with or you're not. I'm living testament to that. Like I said, I grew up with a very deep limiting belief that I wasn't ever going to be considered pretty because I'm dark skinned. And I really had to work through that. And thank God I live in a time where I go on social media and I have the option to follow women that look like me. So that every time I open my page or open my social media, I see a whole bunch of women that look like me and that are polished, that are leveled up, that are married, that are, spoiled, that are living their pretty privilege beyond my wildest dreams. That is no longer a limiting belief for me, because I can see in real time a woman in Paris who looks just like me and she's living her best life. I can see a woman in Kenya who looks just like me living her best life. Like, this limiting belief system, we don't have an excuse for it anymore. We just don't. We just don't, okay? Do what you need to do to train your subconscious to believe that you can be pretty with your skin tone because of your skin tone, not even in spite of it. You don't have to be pretty for a dark-skinned girl. You're just pretty. You're just beautiful. You're just gorgeous. Period. Okay? Kelly Rowland, come on. Work with me. 2 things I want to add to this video. One is you're not going to be everybody's type. Even with your pretty privilege, you're not going to be everybody's type. That's one. And 2, practice makes perfect. Okay, so let's talk about number 1. You're not everybody's type. Pretty girls, beautiful girls, gorgeous girls, we know this, right? There's certain people, there's certain places, there's certain situations, there's certain circumstances that are favorable, that are easier for you because of your pretty privilege. But it's not going to open every single door, because it's not everybody who is going to see you and want you for themselves, right? You're not everybody's type. There are a lot of people that are going to be able to look at you, appreciate your beauty, your effort, and it ends there. And there are going to be some people that are triggered by it, which is the exact opposite, right? So another belief system that I want to dwell on a little bit in this video is the belief that everywhere pretty girls go, they get free drinks, they get their lunches paid for, they get money just thrown at them and whatever. There are people, circumstances, situations, places that are favorable for that type of thing, and there are just places that are not. Okay, so what's a simple example? If I can use a simple example, there's a restaurant, bar that I like to go to that's not far from where I am. And when I get there, inevitably, I'm the prettiest girl in the room. Okay? And as a result, I very rarely pay a bill there. Okay? Do I pay my bills sometimes? Sometimes I have to. Sometimes it's like that, all right? But one of the reasons I kind of frequent this spot is because I know 9 times out of 10, I don't have to pay my own bill. But I can take that same look, same energy somewhere else where there's a little bit more competition. There are girls that are more polished than I am. There are girls that are, you know, carrying themselves in a more poised way than I am. There are girls who are more picky about who they speak to than I am. Girls that are probably more known in those areas than I am. And when I move in those kind of places, the chances of me leaving without having to pay my own bill kind of go down a little bit. It's not everywhere I go where people stop, you know, and drop and roll, right? There's certain places where I know, girl, I got this. And there's certain places where it could go either way. Do you understand? And that's also for me an indication of, okay, this is my comfort zone and this is probably my next level up zone, right? So if I want to go to certain spots on this level and higher and have the same confidence of, girl, don't even worry about it, then I have to put in an extra level of effort to be in that top tier. That's just how it is. And it's not a everyday thing. So I think that little reality check also is very important. And there's levels to it. And even when you are that girl, you're still not going to be everybody's type. Some guys like tall girls. Some guys like short girls. Some guys like light-skinned girls. Some guys like dark-skinned girls. Some guys like big eyes. Some guys like cheekbones. People have their own preference. And you cannot shame them for having a preference, and you cannot limit yourself and say, oh, because I'm not that particular preference, I will never have pretty privilege. No, if you don't ever want to have pretty privilege, then you will never have pretty privilege. If you never want to put effort, the same effort that these pretty girls are putting in, then you can never have the same privilege that they have. It's that simple. But you cannot sit there and say, oh, woe is me, I'll never have it because, oh, I'm not this type. There are so many women who are not that type and are still getting privileges. So many. And there are so many women who are that type who are not. I know a lot of light-skinned women who don't have men crossing the room for them, who don't have men paying their bills, paying if it's a drink, if it's, hey, here's an extra something, just do what you need to do. Like, they don't know that life. Light skin, pretty, but they just don't have pretty privilege. Because it's not something, like I said, you don't just get born with pretty privilege. You can be pretty and still not be able to carry yourself in a way that attracts men to that level. And you could be born plain Jane and be able to up level yourself physically, mentally, the way that you talk, the way that you walk, your resting B face, your gestures, all of that kind of stuff. You can work on all of that and be considered more attractive than somebody that you grew up believing was pretty just because of the tone of their skin. And then practice makes perfect. You have to do this intentionally. Like I said earlier in the video, you can't just put on a dress one time and expect to turn heads. It does not work like that. This is effort. It's days, weeks, months, years of being intentional. And I say this quite a bit. If you're not ready to do this long term, don't even bother. Don't even bother, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I don't put on makeup one day and then the rest of the week I'm walking around barefaced. I don't. If I'm barefaced, I'm at home, okay, having a nice lazy day or whatever. But if I'm out at, going to work, socializing, running errands, doing whatever it is that I need to do, I make sure that I look like something that people actually want to look at. It's effort. And if you're not willing to reinvent yourself and have different routines, including makeup every day, including hair every day, if you're not willing to do that, then that's also okay. But don't sit here and feel sorry for yourself, because you are limiting yourself. There's nothing wrong with men being attracted to beauty. Children are attracted to beauty. We're all attracted to beauty, okay? There's nothing wrong with it. And if you don't want to put in the effort to help that work in your favor, you can't sit here and feel sorry for yourself and expect us to feel bad for you. You just can't. You can't. Okay, so ladies, if this resonates with you, please don't limit yourself. Don't put yourself down so much. We're women, we're ever evolving. That's the best part about being a woman. You can always reinvent yourself. You don't have to wait for a sad day or a tragedy or something to spark that within you. Put little bits of effort every day. Wear something bright, wear pink, wear red, do something to uplift your look a little bit, and add to it every day, every day, every day, every day. And eventually a couple of months go by and you're a brand new person reaping brand new benefits. Okay, it can happen in a matter of weeks, but you really have to take responsibility. Take responsibility. You can't just sit there and... We're big girls. We can do something about it. Okay, and if you want tips on where to start, what to do, don't worry, I got you. I will link a couple of videos up and in the description, but I want you to click subscribe and click the bell notification so that when I come out with my step-by-step keys to seduction, exactly what you need to do in order to turn heads when you walk in a room, then yeah, click all of that so that you get notified when I come out with that guide. Okay, and once again, thank you so much, ladies, for jumping on here with me, and I will see you in the next one. All right,